Hey everyone, today I will be showing you guys the effects of a teacher's attribution and expectations. As I am sure many of you have experienced, teachers have had a great effect on our school careers, and today I will be showing you how a teacher's beliefs affect the student in the long run and how well they can do in class. A teacher's attribution towards the student's behavior affects their expectations of the student's behavior in class, which affects future attribution. This in turn also affects what teaching strategy the teacher will end up using for that particular student. For example, if Mr. Williams is noticing that Alex isn't handing his homework in time, there are a couple conclusions that he can draw. One is that Alex didn't want to do the homework, so Mr. Williams might start giving him some incentive, like if he completes the homework, he gets some extra time at recess, or he might get like a piece of candy, or something like that. Another conclusion that Mr. Williams could draw is that Alex doesn't have the skills necessary to complete the homework successfully. So if Alex doesn't have good organizational skills, his folder is messy, he always loses his homework because his folder is so unorganized, Mr. Williams may help him and show him the proper organizational skills to keep his folder and notes more organized, which then in turn gives Alex the skills necessary to do the homework in time. Another conclusion that could be drawn is that Alex didn't retain the information well from Mr. Williams' lesson to do the homework successfully. And if that happens, sometimes maybe Mr. Williams isn't as helpful towards Alex. These are just some examples that show ideas that teachers form about the students affects the interactions with their students. Like I was saying in the previous slide, teachers draw conclusions about their students very early on in the school year. And usually they're pretty good about their conclusions. They can tell which students need more help than others, which have trouble paying attention, and it helps the teacher find the best way to teach the whole class effectively. However, teachers still do make mistakes, and a study from the book was showing that teachers tend to underestimate students that are in a minority group or from a low-income family, which that in turn in the long run affects how well those students can learn or how pressured they feel to learn. So an example of this is if a teacher believes that girls can write better than boys, boys in that class may not be as confident in their writing skills, and maybe they start not being able to write as well because they are not as confident because their teacher doesn't believe they can write as well. Teachers tend to have a fixed mindset about their students which means if teachers have a higher expectations for their students, the teacher will engage with them more, give them more feedback, maybe harder classwork, and just help the students succeed more. If the teacher has a lower expectation of their student, they won't be engaging as much with them, maybe not let them maybe not call on them in class as much, give them easier homeworks to do, and which in turn the student starts to feel that they can't perform as well in class, so they'll start struggling in class. So, which is why as a teacher you have to constantly be asking yourself if you are giving your students equal treatment, and if not, how can you make it better in a classroom setting? And students are able to pick up on what a teacher thinks of them and how they think of other students. So if a teacher has low expectations of them and the student realizes that, the student isn't going to start performing as well in that class. But it can also go the other way. If the teacher believes that the student can achieve a lot and the student does achieve a lot, that's what we would call a self-fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't always happen. For example, before I go into that, for an example, there was an experiment done where there was a classroom of low-income elementary school students, and the researcher gave names of certain students and told the teacher that they were predicted to do really, really well in that class that year. They weren't really predicted to do that well in that class, but what happened was the teacher started giving them higher expectations, and by the end of the school year, they actually performed much better than than the people in that class who weren't predicted to do well, and the teacher gave them much higher praises at the end of the year than the students who weren't predicted. So it really just goes to show how a teacher can influence a student in a classroom setting. And also, it doesn't always end up happening. There are cases where sometimes if a teacher has lower expectations, sometimes the student will go, well, I'll show you. I'll perform much better than you think I will, and we'll start doing the improvements necessary to perform really well in class. Or sometimes a parent comes in saying that no, my child can really perform as much better than you think he can, and then the parent starts influencing how the teacher thinks of them. So there are a lot of variables that come into how well a student performs, but a big variable is what the teacher thinks of them and what the teacher thinks they can achieve. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoy the activity and that you have a nice day.